Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our Instagram Live. Today, we will be speaking with Omar Pimentel. He's a special assistant to a member in Congress, and last week, Wednesday, he was in the U.S. Capitol during the lockdown. He's going to join us in a few minutes to share his experience with us, and if you have any comments, concerns, and questions, please feel free to comment below. But before we get started, just a disclaimer, if you hear any noises, I do live in New York City, so it's a very noisy place, the city that never sleeps, so just be mindful of that. All right, we're just going to wait for a few more people to join in, and then we'll get started. We have our viewers coming on in. Hello, how are you? And as we come in, does anyone plan on going to inauguration next week? Please comment below if you're excited for the inauguration, what you're looking forward to next week, or if you're going to be watching inauguration in your home. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let's go and reach out to Omar and see. And hello, we have another viewer. Thank you for tuning in with us. Thank you for tuning in. Just give us a few more moments for Omar to come in. He is a congressional member, and he's going to talk with us about his experience with the lockdown last week. Oh, here he is. One of our viewers said, I canceled my flights and hotels. I'll be watching up. All right, have some more viewers. I see Omar's here, so let's let him on in. Hello, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Taylor. Wow, it's so great to see you. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, doing well, but not sure if you've seen the news most recently. A congressman that I work for, he just tested positive for COVID-19.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's we believe it's as a result of a lot of the movement we had to do last week, and
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so I'm currently quarantining as well, and we'll be getting tested tomorrow.
Well, I wish you the best. I hope that, throughout your process that you're negative, or even if you are positive, you get through it. I know you're a strong guy, so I know you'll make it through no matter what.
Thanks, Taylor.
So can you tell us about your experience last week, Wednesday? Can you walk us through it on when you realized something was wrong during the meeting?
Yeah, so it's quite interesting living in Washington, D.C. I believe we've become quite used to demonstrations in our city.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a seat of our government, and we shouldn't be surprised that people come here to exercise their First Amendment rights. So we've seen them throughout my 2 years living here in D.C. It's nothing new, and we've seen both the peaceful and more violent side of things. And we even had a sort of MAGA rally happen before January 6th, around, I believe, the 2nd. So come January 6th, the city was preparing. I remember as a resident here of the city, we'd get constant notifications, especially working for a member of Congress. They'd update us on sort of the security measures that are being taken. And one specific security measure that we don't really see too often that came up is that so the U.S. House of Representatives is one side of the Capitol.
Yes.
And usually members spend most of their time in the House office buildings just across the street, and they're all connected via tunnels. And we were exhorted to only use the tunnels for security reasons, and then only members were allowed to go into the Capitol building without staff. So that's usually when there is a hike in the security protocols. So that was the first sort of telltale sign that they knew something was up. And arriving that morning, I actually walked to work. I live 2 blocks away from the Capitol. And I encountered a few of the protesters walking up to the Capitol building.
So how was that as well?
It wasn't
encountering them. How was that?
Yeah, so as always, you just walk and ignore a lot of these people. But one really struck me, and it was someone yelling at me to take off my mask because COVID isn't real. So I had that as I was approaching the Capitol building. And it was a normal day. We noticed that a lot of the people coming together that were at the White House, we didn't expect the march to come all the way to the Capitol.
Yeah.
So if it weren't for a last minute meeting, we would have been by the House floor when the protesters broke in. So another security protocol that day that also heightened my interest was that the members were only allowed to go to the House floor if they were called upon for debate or if they had set aside time for speaking. And my congressman wasn't going to speak until late in the day, but he wanted to be there throughout the day. I mean, we're witnessing history, counting electoral votes.
Yes.
So we were actually about to leave to the Capitol when two Capitol police officers came up to our office and stopped us and said, "Hey, there's been a breach of the Capitol.
Wow.
You all have to stay here." And we were just delayed for a couple minutes because of a last minute phone call. And all of a sudden, we had media from all over the world. I had different journalists from France, Belgium, Colombia, Canada, all around the United States, Dominican Republic, calling us, trying to figure out what was going on. And it was really interesting that they knew more what was going on than us in the Capitol.
Did inside. Wow.
So we were all watching it on television and afraid for our lives. We had to break out our security hoods, and there's these special hoods that you wear in case that there's a chemical attack or to protect yourselves from tear gas and such. So no, that day was one for the ages, and I hope that we don't ever have to live through that again.
So in that moment when you're experiencing all that, putting on the hood and just moving so fast in that motion, what were you feeling? Were you fearful? Were you just going in the motion of it all, just trying to protect yourself? What was going through your mind?
It's interesting because sort of like time freezes for a second, and you really don't realize what's going on until you take a step back and you're like, wait a minute, like I'm supposed to be working in the most secure place, one of the most secure places in our country. And it all felt so surreal, and I still don't think I've processed it completely ever since that day. But it sort of feels like a betrayal of some sort. I think and from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank Capitol Police because I know they did their best.
Yes.
After everything, we took a walk around the Capitol and the House floor and saw all the custodians cleaning up and the Capitol Police all beat up, trying to figure out. They themselves are trying to come together and think about what they just went through as well. So, but going back to my reaction, again, it's surreal. It's, again, a lot of people call it a 9/11 moment. I don't want to compare it to it, but there is a certain thing that really draws the comparison. So when you first come to work on Capitol Hill, you're taught what the Capitol bells mean. And the Capitol bells is a system of notifications that the Capitol has. And it's beeps that you hear from your office to notify members of Congress when voting procedures are occurring. So you memorize, okay, 4 beeps means that we're going into a quorum call, or 6 beeps means that there's a vote going on the floor or recess. But you're taught also another beep that you hope you're never going to hear. And it's 12 beeps, 2 seconds apart, and all the lights go white on your clock. And when we saw that, that's when it hits you and like, wow, like my life is really in danger. And my legislative director has been on the Capitol campus for over a decade. And he said the last time that ever happened was 9/11. So our hearts dropped in that moment. And we're lucky to have made it out of their life.
That must have been so terrifying because you just never expect anything like that to even happen to you. No matter where you are in the world, you never expect to be in danger for your life. So that must have, thank you for just walking us through your experience, because we only hear, from the news, just kind of the general base of it, but you never hear anyone's personal story of how they felt in those moments. So thank you for sharing that. So how do you feel now going back to the Capitol every day for work, or whenever you do go? How do you feel going back now? Were you nervous, or what makes you go back?
Yeah, so a lot of friends and family reached out at the moment. I had hundreds of text messages and missed calls. And I got even more the next day because a lot of my friends and family had followed up with me. And to their surprise, I was back in the Capitol that morning, as always, at 8 a.m. And I feel it as though it's a sense of duty. We're there for a bigger purpose. I feel safe going back to the Capitol. You should see now the amount of security that there is in Capitol Hill. I heard a statistic that we have more military men and women deployed on Capitol Hill now more than in some Middle Eastern countries.
Wow.
But yeah, I go back to work because it's what I love to do. Then and again, my member of Congress is elected to be there, and he feels that same sense of need to be there, and that's our job, and no one's going to take that from us, and we're going to get the job done, and we're going to be there every day we need to be.
I'm happy to hear that. And then moving forward from that, how do you feel about the state of the country from that event happening with, just everything with 2020 and moving forward with 2021? How do you feel about our country's state right now?
So speaking for myself,
Yes.
I think it's an opportunity, as sad as it may seem.
Mm-hmm.
From very deep lows, we can come very high out of, and I think America has been a prime example of that. When they go low, we go high,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we're at the cusp of that. We're now healing the wounds of that terrible incident that we witnessed on Capitol Hill last week, and America is going to step back. We will inaugurate a new president next week.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a new majority in the Senate, and we're going to have to work together, and America will come out stronger from this. And I guess on the more nerdy side of things, it's interesting because although we might not be happy with the tactics certain people are approaching certain procedures on the Hill or how the president is approaching the elections, a lot of these legal questions is a good thing they're being finally asked so we could finally come to solutions for.
Yeah.
Our country's only been around for a little over 200 years, and these legal questions need to be answered someday. So now we're going to have precedent for the role of the vice president when it comes to counting electoral votes. We're going to have a lot more precedent when it comes to impeachment procedures of president. Now we've been through it twice in under 2 years. So that's, I guess, the nerd side of me speaking, but it's an important,
very important. Yeah.
it's an important aspect of everything that's going on to keep in consideration.
Is there anything else you want to share with our viewers about your experience or what they should look forward to or what they should do to get more involved in politics or just knowing what's going on in this world? Any recommendations or anything you just want to share with us?
Yeah, I think that it's a great time for us to get involved in politics. 2020 has brought the entire world into the digital world. And more than ever, the eyes of America and the world are on Capitol Hill. And I would invite everyone to get to know your member of Congress, get to know what they stand for, register to vote, and reach out to them. They're there for you and they work for you. So now is a really good time for us to put the effort into learning about that.
Wow. Thank you so much for this informative interview, walking through your experience with us. I know it must have been tough, but I just want to say thank you for sharing that and just being so vulnerable with us about everything you went through and also how to get more involved and know what's going on in our world and our politics and just be the change and, just make a difference. So I want to say again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening. I hope you are safe, you're healthy, when you get your results and everything. Wish your congressman the best. And thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
No
we'll
problem.
Keep in touch, Taylor.
All right, we'll do. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye.